What would you do if standing by your beliefs meant certain death? Not just any death, a death by boiling, in oil or pitch, your skin peeling, your muscles blistering, every second a scream you can't stop. This isn't a myth. This was Rome. The mightiest empire in the ancient world didn't just crucify or behead its enemies. It invented new ways to make people suffer. And one man, Eustratius, faced it head-on. He could have walked away. All he had to do was bow, say the words, burn a little incense to the emperor. But he said no. Eustratius, the Roman soldier who was boiled alive for refusing to deny his faith. This is not just a story of death. It's a story of courage in a cauldron of agony. Rome, 303 A.D. The empire was strong, but behind its gold and glory was fear. Emperor Diocletian ruled with iron discipline. He had restored order to a crumbling Rome, splitting the empire in two and creating a system of co-emperors. But Diocletian had one obsession: control. And to him, the growing number of Christians posed a dangerous threat. They refused to worship the emperor. They rejected the gods of Rome. And worst of all, they spread fast among slaves, women, even soldiers. To Diocletian, that was a religion. It was rebellion. And so in February of that year, he made a choice that would stain history: the Great Persecution. Temples were ordered to be rebuilt. Christian churches were destroyed. Scriptures burned. And one by one, the Christians were hunted publicly, brutally, and without mercy. This is a world that Eustratius lived in. Eustratius wasn't a peasant or priest. He was a Roman soldier. He was trained, disciplined, and loyal. On the outside, he looked like every other warrior of the empire. But inside, he was something else. He was a Christian. No one knew. Not at first. It was a secret he carried like a dagger tucked behind his cloak. Every morning, he trained beside men who would gladly throw him into chains if they found out what he believed. But Eustratius had joined for a reason. He believed he could make a difference from the inside, that maybe, just maybe, he could serve Rome without betraying his soul. And for a time, he did. He rose through the ranks. He became respected. His voice carried weight. Until one day, a fellow Christian was arrested and dragged into a public square to be tortured. Eustratius was ordered to watch and remain silent. But something inside him snapped. He stepped forward. He tore off his insignia, and he shouted across the square, "I too am a Christian, and I will not be silent." The crowd froze. The soldiers blinked. And then chaos. Eustratius was dragged to the governor's palace. There would be no mercy. His judge was Lysias, a man known for breaking men like glass. He didn't scream. He didn't threaten. He simply offered Eustratius a deal. Offer incense to the emperor. Just a pinch. You don't even have to mean it. You'll go free. You'll live. No pain. No death. But Eustratius knew the truth. That moment, that one pinch of incense, was everything. He looked Lysias in the eye and whispered, "I serve only one king, not made by hands, not buried in gold. The one who died for me. I will not deny him." Lysias didn't smile. He didn't argue. He simply nodded to the guards. And the torture began. First, he was stripped naked, humiliated before the people. Then they beat him with rods until the skin peeled off his back. Still, he did not scream. So they stretched him on a rack, his limbs pulled until joints cracked. They burned his feet over open flames. And when his voice still whispered prayers, they prepared the cauldron. The courtyard was filled with smoke. Villagers gathered, some curious, some terrified. They'd heard rumors. A man boiled alive like livestock. Could it be true? At the center stood the cauldron, a massive iron pot set over burning logs, filled with boiling pitch and oil, the kind used in siege weapons, the kind that clings to flesh. Eustratius was carried out, barely conscious, body broken. The guards hesitated. Even they were shaken. But Lysias gave a command. "Let the people see what happens to rebels." The crowd gasped as Eustratius was lifted and dropped into the cauldron. The first second, the skin on his legs turned white, then red, then black. He screamed, not in fear, not in regret, but in pain, the kind that tears open your soul. The pitch bubbled around him, thick and hissing. It climbed up his chest. His hands clawed the rim, but there was no escape. Some say the smell of burning flesh filled the square. Others say he sang until his voice cracked like a broken bell. And then silence. He was gone. Normally, the story would end here. Another execution. Another rebel silenced. But Eustratius's death did something unexpected. It shook the city. People whispered his name in the streets. Not in fear, but in awe. Did you hear about the soldier? He died without betraying his God. He didn't scream for mercy. He prayed. Even some of the guards who tortured him left their posts. And within days, more arrests began. Not fewer. More. Because people began confessing their faith. Openly, fearlessly. One death had become a spark. Lysias was furious. He sent word to Diocletian himself, urging for harsher laws. But something had shifted. The persecution didn't slow the Christians. It lit a fire in them. And in time, decades later, Christianity would become the very faith that ruled the empire. Eustratius didn't live to see it. But his death, boiled alive in a Roman square, became a banner for courage, a symbol of resistance. He was later canonized as a saint. His bones, or what remained, were hidden, guarded, venerated. But for most, it's the memory that survives. A man who faced a cauldron and didn't blink. Most of us will never be asked to die for what we believe in. We won't face lions or crosses or boiling cauldrons. But stories like Eustratius's aren't just about death. They're about choice, about what we stand for, who we really are when we're afraid, when we're pressured, when it would be easy to look away. Eustratius could have lived. He could have bowed. He could have burned the incense and gone back to his home. But he chose the fire. He chose to hold on to something, even when the world ripped everything else away. And that's why we remember him, not as a victim, but as a warrior of conscience. So the next time you feel afraid to speak your truth, to stand your ground, remember the man in the cauldron, the soldier who whispered, "I will not deny him," even as his skin boiled and his bones burned. He died screaming in pain, but not in fear. And sometimes that kind of courage echoes for centuries.